Right. Right. No, that makes sense. So I got to ask, so since you do have doctor in your title, what are you a doctor in? Because I'm sure people are
Sure.
wondering.
A
Yeah, yeah.
PhD.
So
Yeah.
how that even came about, I was not math or science, and PhD was like a joke. Like that would never happen in my lifetime. So
Right.
I just
Did
think it's
the animals ask you to do it, right? Is that what I heard you say earlier?
so I had gotten my master's, um, I don't know, somewhere like 2007, 2008. I went through a metaphysical university, the University of Sedona, and what I did my research on was the effects of Qigong on high school boys with ADD and ADHD. So I go to the high school twice a week. We practice together. We did an intake. You know, what are you experiencing? Anxiety. I can't sleep. I have a hard time taking tests. My back hurts. And then we did an exit exam. Sleeping better, feel better, like all of these things. So through that university, it was on a payment plan, and it's a metaphysical university. Okay, so we're not talking Harvard or MIT or now, most of those are Rockefeller medicine universities. So do you think anything like this is going to include spirit and no? So I couldn't do what I want to do unless I did their double blind placebo study. And I'm like, well, all right. I didn't know that I had paid for my PhD. Years later, years go on, and I go out. I'm in Colorado, and I found out about somebody who had a Mustang rescue. And I was like, oh my God, he's only like 90 minutes from me. I have to go over there. I go over there. We start talking. I have like 6 or 7 Mustangs around me. I don't know if you guys have ever been around Mustangs. They're very cool, but they're also very freaking fast. And stuff can happen like it. So you always have to have eyes behind your head. All of these animals that he cares for, because he takes in a lot of kill pen Mustangs that got screwed up by trainers or the BLM process. And he gives them sanctuary so that they can actually kind of restore their own souls. So we're standing there talking. I have 6 mares behind me, which is like, that could go south really fast. So I still have my, vision kind of behind me, but he's got a horse that he's petting in front of him named Clancy. And he's petting Clancy's shoulder, and he's like, I had him here for 15 months and I can't seem to break through. Like, I don't know why he won't let me get further. And we don't do everything at George's is very gentle. He also practices Qigong. So he's developed a really beautiful way to work with the horses with very gentle energy. They're not getting like run around. They're not all of these things that people do that say this is the only way to break a horse. We don't break horses. We connect with them, and we work in communion together. So I'm looking at Clancy and I can visually see, and I'm asking him, I'm like, what's up? He's like, well, I have an issue in my back from the gather. And he was still like heartbroken. So he goes and he walks away, and he's about 40 feet away from me. And I said, George, if it's okay, I'm just going to do a body session on him. Do the body session. It takes maybe like 25 minutes. And then George and I are talking, and I'm not really paying attention. Clancy comes back, and now George is like, and now I can pet his shoulder. And now I can scratch his side.
Yeah.
And now and I'm like, okay, this is the first time I met this guy. I don't know if he thinks I'm deaf. I don't, because I'm not fully putting 2 and 2 together.
Right.
And I just did the session. I released whatever release. I don't fully know because we're in conversation. There's other horses behind me. And all of a sudden it hits me. It was like, Mustangs don't just let you go from their face to their butt without some interim stuff. So that I'm driving home that day, I'm going through this canyon and I hear the horses. I hear the herd and they say, can you pull over? And I said, okay. Okay. So I pull over and they said, listen, we want you to do your PhD. And I'm like, excuse me? What do you mean? I mean, do my PhD. They said, well, we saw what you can do, and we've been waiting for you because we want you to be able to show and demonstrate this live on Zoom and do case studies with us and prove that unrecognized pain is often at the root of so many behavior issues with horses. And I had known this, about the dogs, and I had been working with horses, but Mustangs are I mean, we're talking wild animals. They don't need us. They don't, they don't need anything from us. And this is like the ancient, original blueprint. They haven't been touched. They haven't been messed with. So I asked them for a day, and I said, let me think about it. And they showed me exactly how they wanted me to do it. And the next day I called my school and I found out I had already paid for my PhD. And I was like, oh my God, I guess I'm sunk. I have to do this. So they literally showed me exactly how to organize it, to do these sessions via Zoom and then do follow-ups and intakes. And not one of these horses had a body issue. Like if you watch them move, everybody moved beautifully. Any rider, any trainer would have been like, they're fine. I started doing the same assessment. It's called the instinct body assessment and fascia release technique on these horses. And I'm like, oh my God, thank God nobody got on you. You have like 14 things out of alignment. No wonder
Oh my
why
God.
somebody couldn't train you, because you're going to be more defense. I mean, it's one thing when they're in the wild, they're playing, they could be out of alignment, but they're moving each other around, right? Natural horse movement language. Now you have somebody that's like holding your face with a halter, and then they're asking you to do this. It's not that you don't want to, you can't because you're stuck.
Right.
But they're good poker players. You won't see it. And so as I kept going, I went through 27 different case studies, and the title of my PhD is the effects of Qigong and quantum entanglements on formerly wild Mustangs to see if behavior is affected by unrecognized pain.
That's incredible.
Wow, that was your thesis.
Wow.
That was my
fantastic.
PhD. Do you know what was freaky though? When I called my school and I said, all right, listen, the animals gave me this awareness of like this that they want to study. They go, you realize your PhD you're not required to do a study. And I was like, what? And they said, no, you just have to have a theory. And then you go look up other research that other people have done. And, that's how you formulate your PhD. And I'm thinking, holy shit, like is that even ethical? Like if you are putting forth a PhD dissertation, shouldn't you have to do some research?
I would think so, yeah.
I would do. So they were like, well, you don't really have to. And I like at that time I was like, I'm 100% in. I was like, no, if I'm allowed to do this and present this, I'll still do the other research. But there was a reason why the horses said, we need you to do this research. I was like,
yeah, they wanted they didn't want regurgitated stuff. They wanted you to actually do this. This is amazing.
Yeah.
I just got chills.
So I go ahead 6 months in, right? All the case studies are done. Now I have to write the PhD. I don't know how to write a PhD. Another year goes by. And at this point, I'm like, I'm open to anything. And I called a friend of mine who does past life regressions. And I say, I don't know. I don't know what to, I mean, I usually can write. I'm a really, really good writer. Like, I don't know why I'm so stuck here. We do a past life regression. Turns out somewhere in the 1400s, I lived in Turkey. And I was like this hermetic philosopher that understood, was studying like the stars and nature and all, God. And I was on my way to tell the good people in this town that you don't need the church and religion. You're already connected to God. So as happenstance would have it, I get jumped by 3 priests who cut me open and brand my heart with a branding iron. And I'm having to watch this whole thing. And I'm not making it up because I've never had an awareness of that before.
Right.
So we finished that session. And within 3 months of sitting in my horse's pasture with my horse and my dogs and using my phone, I complete my PhD. The written part.
Wow, I think I'm going to have to take this segment of the interview and just make a short out of it. This is amazing.
Yeah.
So then I realized what they were asking me to do. I thought it was just about proving that body misalignment affects behavior. I finished the PhD And I was in Montana when I got the word that it was approved. And I came back to Colorado, and I'm just kind of sitting, staring at the wall one day, like in between clients. And I hear the horses go, "You realize you just proved the unified field theory, don't you?" And no, no, I did not realize that. I was like, I kind of figured from the chi, but they were like, no, you just proved it in real time. That's why we wanted you to do the study. And then they said, look, you understand now how this fascia tissue stuff works, right? They're like, why are you not creating something for the kids? Because look at how many kids, they get banged, they get dinged, all of that stuff. Why are they putting the kids on drugs? When the first thing that you should be checking is not their brain scans like Dr. Daniel Amen does. You should be checking their body alignment and their breathing, because their body alignment and their body alignment is going to affect their breathing. And if their breathing's off, their brain chemistry's off. They said so. And at one point I had thought about contacting him and to say, have you ever done studies where you have checked the brain scan, done a body alignment, done a chiropractic adjustment, body alignment, and then redone the brain scan instead of do the brain scan, see what's off, and now put these kids on supplements?
Right.
How about we see how much can shift just from releasing fascia tissue? Mm-hmm. And recently, and since the study, I mean, the things that I keep connecting the dots on that they keep showing me, like the next, they said, remember Star Trek? And I said, yeah. And they said, remember the Beam Me Up, Scotty? And I said, yeah. He goes, well, they said, what the heck do you think you're doing when you're working on us? Your cells are already walking through walls. And I was like, what? They said, you actually thought in a 3D body you were going to walk through a wall? I was like, doesn't everybody? I mean, like, I would assume so. And they said, no, you're already walking through walls. You're already doing the Beam Me Up, Scotty. And I was like, because if they would have told me this stuff before, they just gave it to me in these little pieces, right? And that's when I found out too, even about the heart math study, because I called Roland at heart math and we had a conversation and I said, help me out here. I understand this stuff from Qigong as the Qi field. Like the Qi field is what quantum entanglements are happening in. It's like if you have alphabet soup, the alphabets are the physicality, but it is all happening in a soup. And we forget about the soup. And that's what the unified field is. And I said, all right, I get it that you guys are saying that a horse's heart is 5 times larger, or the energy field of the heart is 5 times more expansive than a human. I'm like, okay, but so's a horse. Horse 5 times. I said, and now I'm going to 2,000 miles away. What field do I even say I'm in? And he said, well, you should just keep it as energy. He's like, because you're going to piss off the quantum physicists, because they have to prove things in a certain way. He said, they're going to see what you do, but they're not going to validate it for you because they're in their box. And it's been fascinating. Like I contacted Rupert Sheldrake because he talks all about the morphic fields and he's very good friends with my Sifu. And I was like, do you want some of these as case studies? I kind of consider this pretty cool paranormal stuff. Not just something showed up, but like an animal heals or the behavior changes. And he kind of, was, meh. But even then, I'm like, so how far does the morphic field go? But the animals know it's the unified field. And I contacted several of them. I even talked to a physicist, a really well-known physicist, and he said, don't call it quantum physics. And I said, why? He goes, because we have to study things in a certain way. And what you're doing, he goes, I totally understand it. I totally, totally get it. But if you call that quantum physics, you're going to be looked at, your science is going to be looked at differently. Sure. Because you don't have the same machinery. And I was like, well, that's stupid. Like, it's not, and that's when the whole thing for me, because it was like, science is God, and that kind of thing, right? It's the doctor knows. And I sit there and I go, if the doctor knows, how come all these people are coming to me after they've spent thousands of dollars and the doctor couldn't get to the root? And even my studies with Chinese medicine, right? The only time I've been to a doctor, unfortunately, is because I broke bones.
Right.
That's it.
Probably good then.
Right?
Real good. Yeah. Stitches and bones.
Right? And so, you sit there and like, I'll have a horse that gets cut. I mean, spurting blood. Start working with the tissue, and in 4 hours, it stopped. I mean, it stopped before that, but in 4 hours, it just looks like it was a little cut, and in 3 days, it's like it's not there anymore.
Wow.
This is
everything's energy first.
And that's the only way I take it. I don't sit there, oh God, she cut her, fetlock, and she kicked it. I don't even think about that. I'm like, okay, let's see what happens in the energy field and what we can do. And, in science, they talk about the double-blind placebo study, right? And you have control groups and all this stuff. I'm thinking, okay, these horses have never met me. They don't have any idea about what I'm going to do or what points I'm going to touch. There can be no conference, like I'm not talking to them beforehand. I'm just like, cool, I'll show up, we'll do the points, and we'll see what happens. The person on the phone, no idea what I'm doing. They're just holding the phone and recording what's happening with the horse. So I'm sitting here going, this is the best double-blind placebo study ever, because nobody knew anything. So if it's true, cool. Then I can't tell. I'm not telepathically communicating with the horse going, could you do me a favor?
Right.
Could you lick and chew right now? That would make things look really good. I'm just sitting back. I've got my communication with them turned off, but they're communicating with me, and we're watching bodies, and people are just, everybody's jaw's on the floor, including mine, because I don't know what's going to happen.
Wow.
So it's just interesting. And now I start to realize from the horses, they're like, God is the quantum computer.